If you look at my documentary, The American Dream, I go back and I see schools in Akron, and you'll see me talking to some of the kids. And basically what I'm telling them is, I do that because I need them to understand. Like, I dealt with this very tough. Like, me being a person who had a mom, a dad, and is college educated. When I got laid off from work before I decided to go to broadcasting school, the reason I took it so hard was because for me, I am the representation of a person who had all of the right things happen.
Willie was hoping I was going to forget, but I didn't forget. We got a tradition here on the Black Culture Podcast where we like to toast it up. And I told you tonight, you choosing what we get to toast to.
Well, listen, man. Hold on. First of all, just pause. Hold on. Let me get my situation. Hold on. Keep that running.
Go ahead, man. Get it together, man. G. Bush has left. He
left the room.
The situation together.
He went to the store.
Going to the corner store real quick.
Right. He had to grab something real quick.
It looked like he in New York too, by the way, in his background, man.
I ain't got much, but I do got something. I got a little something in my water bottle. I take a little something. I'll take some. I want to toast, to three brothers supporting each other. That's what I want to. So that's what I want to toast to. It's a lot of people that be out here. It's a lot of things going on socially, and people just got a lot of questions and a lot of things that they're gonna put on the internet, and everybody is rah. But listen, when it comes time to do something, it's I can't even really do that, or I gotta go do this too, or I don't even know if I can do that. It's very few people that support people, and you're just trying to support and see them do good. So here's cheers to three brothers trying to be entrepreneurs, supporting each other, and just chopping it up. And here's to you guys prospering and being healthy moving forward.
Toast it up.
There we go. Yes, indeed.
All right. So listen, man. Listen. We got one of my favorites tonight on the Black Culture Podcast. Listen. The word on the street is he's a Canton McKinley legend, but we're going to get into that story later. That's the word on the street. Ohio University, right? 92.3 The Fan, host of the Barbershop. Yeah. That show airs every Saturday, 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. noon. He's also the host of the Browns Tailgate Show, right?
Mm-hmm.
So listen, man, I'm just a PSA. If you looking for a show that's not gonna keep it real, that's just gonna pity pat, this ain't gonna be the show for you, because we don't do that on here anyway. But this dude is a dude that's gonna keep it real. This straight talk tonight, man. So listen, the Black Culture Podcast is about to take you on a culture journey, but we're gonna stop at the barbershop first. G. Bush, what's going on, man?
Hey, what's up, man? That intro was fire. I'm gonna need to go ahead and record that. Can I get you on record that so I can just play that back? Anytime my girl tripping, I could just play that. It's not what they're saying. You hear this? Nah, man. But I appreciate you guys having me on. I've been watching and listening to your content, and I just love the fact that it's about culture, it's about other things, and so I like to have an opportunity to talk about a wide variety of things. And when you see the barbershop, it says it's about sports, music, and culture. And sometimes in sports, people can tell you, we don't want to hear too much about the culture. We don't want to hear too much about the music, unless it's just the music that we can identify with. And so, I'm definitely for coming in and hollering at you brothers, because, man, I was looking forward to this one, because I think it's going to be a great conversation.
Absolutely, man.
Yes, sir. So for the audience who might not know, I want you to give them a little backstory on who is Garrett Bush. Former athlete. Can't believe you went to Kent McKinley, man. That's gonna be a story for another day. But anywho, just fill them in on who you are, your background, and what it is exactly that you do for the culture.
My name's Garrett Bush. 39 years old. I'll be throwing it out there. I'm just putting it out there. I'm 39. I'll be hating when people just be like, I'm 24. Nah, bro. You put your regular age out there, man. Ain't nothing wrong with that. I grew up in Canton, Ohio. Former football player, played basketball, played baseball at Camp McKinley. Graduated there. Was able to earn an athletic scholarship after winning a couple championships for McKinley. Went to Ohio University, played football there, and then graduated there in 2006. After college, wanted to figure out what I wanted to do, and kind of like yourself, I thought I want to be, going to financial planning, financial advising, moved to Charlotte, North Carolina. Found out that wasn't what I wanted to do, partly because it was during the financial stock market and the housing crisis. And so people wasn't making no money in about 2007, 2008, especially when you're doing 75% commission. So came back to Ohio. During that process, man, I really fell in love and just decided to go for it. I knew I had already had a degree, so it was like, hey, I want to get into this broadcasting thing. I want to work for a team. And I didn't have really an in card. I'm like, if I want to go back to school, I got to pay for that out of my pocket. So if you got a degree, the government ain't giving loans out for people with degrees. So I took the last little money that I had in my pocket, went to the Ohio Media School. I was just one day sitting on my mom's couch and I was watching Bruce Drennan, and, like God tapped me on the shoulders like, hey, man, you might want to get up and call, because they ran like a promotion for Ohio Media School. And I just, the very next day, called them, drove up from Canton, and started Ohio Media School. Through there, I got an internship at ESP in Cleveland. I worked there, met a lot of dope people, Gerard Cherry, Emmett Golden. I worked with all those dudes, worked on that show and really big show, some of the other shows, all the way for a year, graduated. And then, while I was looking for my job, they told me, hey, you got to go out of town to get a job. You can't get no job in the top 25 market. And so it was kind of disappointing that I didn't get a job at KNR. But lucky for me, the Lord works in mysterious ways. I was able to get a call from Andy Roth, and it was him calling me, telling me, hey, yeah, we're going to change one of these formats from a rock format to like a all sports talk. Are you interested in coming to be like a board op, answer phones? And I was like, heck
That's
yeah.
dope. That's dope.
And from there, I've been there since day one, worked my way up from the bottom, answering phones, mentor the great BSK, it's a great story to hear about. He's the one who really kind of gave me my shot and opportunity to speak on air. And then from there, just created the Barbershop, and here we are today, man.
So we got a lot to unpack, but first we gotta go back a little bit, because you went to OU, which is known as the party school.
Yeah.
So and I know there's rules. You're not supposed to kiss and tell and whatnot, but I just want to know how crazy was it?
Man, listen, OU is probably, first of all, when I went there, OU, the campus is so nice. OU is like probably like the epitome of what, like if you watch some of these school days or school type programs of what college life is like, it's the epitome of that. Like, I walked into campus and I was just looking around like, man, this is just like they portrayed it in a movie. I'm like, man, is this, I always thought I wanted to go to MTV Spring Break. But look, here I am on MTV Spring Break in real life. I told my mom, I said, listen, after we went on the first visit, at the time, people wanted me to go to like, bigger schools. Like, I still had visits on the table. Like I had visits to go to Wisconsin, to go to Michigan, to go to these other schools. And I left OU because they were the first team to really kind of like offer me, and like they hammered me like, hey, come in the first recruiting week. And I remember I got there. And I got there, and it was probably a situation where we have a long 9-week break. So it really wasn't nobody on campus, but they had the football team and the basketball team, and there was like some track teams and some track people there. And I just remember going there and going to parties and realizing like, oh, I ain't going nowhere else. This is it. This is it for me. OU is the only place that I've seen dudes give back football scholarships. Like, you know what? Hey, here's what we're gonna do. One of my roommates was like, he ended up losing his scholarship because of some different stuff. We was all roommates, and he had lost his scholarship, but basically there's like, all right, we're gonna pay for one last year for you, and then you done. You're gonna get this 4-year scholarship, you done. But we need that scholarship to get somebody else. He was like, cool. So he was just on scholarship, just going to class, doing his thing. My other roommate was like, hey man, went to the coach and was like, hey dog, that deal you gave him, I'm trying to get that deal. They was like, that's not a deal. That's like that. That's not a situation. And the reason it was like that is because it's just the partying. Like at OU, you can be somebody and not have a jersey, not be smart, not nobody. You could just throw the best parties and be the dude. Like you come in and there's people all around like, oh, that's so-and-so. He throws a party up on North High Street. That's so-and-so. You know who that is? He had like a 10-kegger and he had Harry Buffalo and he had a t-shirt contest. So like these guys is going crazy. OU is that place. And when I went.
So which guy were you? I just
listen,
know.
I fought it out, you know.
Okay.
You know, my mom and dad wasn't playing no games. They're like, no, you're going to go over there and you're going to actually, to be truthful, I actually stayed 6 years and actually double majored. Like it was a way to prolong my death. I had got injured a year and I had to sit out for a year to get surgery over one of the semesters. So I graduated behind my class. So I figured that I was a couple credits short of, getting a double major. So I was just like, I'm going to stay again for 6 years. So OU is that it's everything is made out to be. It's destroyed lives. It's made great tales. And it's a period of time where if you ever say, would you give it back? I'll give it back a whole 2 weeks paycheck to give me a week back there. Just 1 week.
2 weeks, 1 week, bro.
I'm going back to college. I'm sorry.
Just
I'm going back.
time. And it was
I'm
crazy.
Going back to Athens, Ohio right now.
And it was so good. It was so, my brother came and saw me. Now, my brother is younger than me. He played football too. So he's like an offensive lineman or whatever. He was like, when he came up and would see us and we would throw these parties, I would have my cousins and different people coming up and they would show up and they just couldn't understand it. Like how many people was there and it blew their mind. My brother was like, I'm not going nowhere either. I'm going OU too. I already got a name there. They know who I am. I'm going. So me and my brother both went to OU and we both graduated from there. So best time of my life. I can't even hate.
Damn. And then what happened when you left? I mean, did the depression kick in? I mean, like, how did it work for you?
Listen, first of all, facts. Let's be real about it. Like, this is true. This ain't like I'm just laughing. There are people that are my friends. Like, this is a truthful statement. I had people who overdosed, like literally died. Like I had 3 or 4 of my friends in rehab. Facts. Like had to fully, let's go to rehab because this is not working out too well for us right now. So, that part of it is, my mom and dad used to come down and visit for mom's weekend, dad's weekend, because me and my brother both went there. My younger brother went to the University of Akron. He used to come up too. But it's this thing where, I always wonder what the theme to Cheers meant. Everybody wants to go to a place where everyone knows your name, right? You know what I'm saying? You can walk into a place and people just know you. You can walk into a place 5-6 years later and people could still, they realize that they know you because they're like, oh, that's his picture behind the bar. Like all these things. And basically people do go through depression because they're like, how am I supposed to really go back to regular life and get a job? And this is, to me, as a regular person, this is the highest I've ever been as far as fame or people knowing you. So after I left there, for me, I was interested in playing football and different things like that. But when that didn't work out because of injuries, I transitioned and it took a while. But what you got to have, my mom and dad has always been like, it'll get out of your system. Like one day you wake up and I think it hit you. I was in Charlotte, and I just said, "Nah, I'm tired of being broke. Like I'm like I'm tired of seeing like you get that thing where your college friends is may get to the real world quicker than you, and they start to make $60,000-$70,000. You run around here like on $20,000 and some hopes, dreams, and perception. You look good, you got a bunch of expensive clothes on, but after a while, it's like, nah, you gotta get to this bag. Like you gotta figure out something because perception ain't gonna keep you alive in terms of what you want to do in the job market. So, it took me a while, but I got it. I got to it.
So I wanna go back just a little bit. So Alex, I know you're gonna remember where he left off at because it's gonna be a perfect pickup from you. So recently, man, on our podcast, we talk about, they expect us to be athletes and rappers. But let's be honest with you. It's no it's you can't argue that football plays a huge part in the community. Definitely. Like I played Muni League. Football keeps a lot of kids off the streets. Some kids, their first example of a father figure is not until they step on the football field. But if you
Mm-hmm.
look at how times has changed, kids aren't playing football anymore. It's a lot of kids on video games. There's a lot of kids just doing actually in the streets. And to me, I think that's because also the lack of a father figure in the house or even like young moms, man. So when you look at times today, like how I remember times I would go up to youth football and try out. You would have to be tryouts. There was so many kids playing.
Mm.
Now teams need like they're going around looking. Man, what needs to be changed to make sure like because to me football coaches are still community leaders. They're
Mm-hmm.
leaders in the community. They look over a lot of kids. But what happened? Like just give me your opinion on what happened to kids in youth sports.
You know, I think of it like this, and I think it's a two-part program. One is, when I was growing up, my dad he used to coach a baseball team. And I remember I was, really good at baseball. Like it's the only sport I really played. I didn't start playing football till I was like 14, 15 years old, almost in high school. But I played baseball ever since I was like 5, 6 years old. So I was always extra good. Like it was just like they would go with my high school team. There was not very many African American players in the city that made their high school team that were black. Like it just wasn't a thing. You wasn't about to, because it just cost too much from the traveling teams to the gloves to the bats or whatever. But growing up in my father's neighborhood in the black community back then, growing up in the 60s and 70s, that's what they did. Baseball was a part of like the fabric, the culture, right? So my dad always coached my baseball teams. And then it got to the point where I had made this traveling team and pretty much I was, one of the best kids, probably in the state. And then my dad was kind of like, nah, what I'm about to do is I'm about to start a baseball team, a traveling team on the African American side of town. Like everybody got one of the towns, right? Everybody got one of the side of the town where all the people from the hood is at. So my dad says, yo, I'm about to start a baseball team in the hood. Now I'm looking at him like, I mean, that's on you, bro. We was like a couple of games away from going to the Little League World Series. What you mean? Good luck with that. He was like, no, you on my team. He didn't really ask. He just said, no, you on my squad. And I was hot. It's one of the first times me and my dad was like, I usually whatever you want me to do. Like, but I was mad and I didn't understand why he had me on it like that. I'm like, I'm about to play for a squad. We didn't even really have jerseys like that. We got funded by like the Urban League and some other people. So we had these old Negro League jerseys. It was like we just had numbers on the back. It wasn't even like crazy. They was all gray. Like we was basically like a ragtag group of people. So, but what I understood was he was trying to tell me like, you got a father at home. So you got to help me show them how it go. You got to show them how to move, right? So he used to be hard as heck on me. Like I used to strike out and be mad or something, and I could be the player of the month, and he would be like, hey man, you got to run that out, or you got to hustle all the time. He was just on me all the time. And one time we just got in an argument. I'm like, man, you always on me like this. These other cats in there. He said, listen, the reason you on my squad is because I need you as an example to buy in, to say, if y'all want to get somewhere, this is what it take. Because the same way I'm hard on my son, this is how society is going to look at you. You're going to have to be better than everybody else if you want to be even. You're going to have to get to that. And so you see how I'm coaching him? It's going to be 10 times worse, because they're not going to tell you what you're doing wrong. You just not going to get the job. They're not going to say, hey, man, you might want to do it this way next time. They just going to overlook you and keep it moving. So I understood what he was saying after that, but it took it hit me one day. I was like in college, and I finally understood what the premise of it was for. But to give you the reason why, and to think about why these things happen and why in the African-American community, people aren't playing sports and aren't doing as much, is because, first of all, is access. You know, if you're a single mom, you just trying to put food on the table. You just doing the best you can. And if you ain't in jail, or you ain't shooting nobody, or you got half decent grades, they just trying to worry about getting it. So access is a thing. The second thing is people actually taking time to invest in your future, invest in you as a person. That may be, like you said, a coach, a pastor, somebody, one of your OGs, somebody in the neighborhood to pull you aside to be like, yo, I believe in you. You could do other things besides the negative stuff that they put in. And then third, I don't think, as far as football is concerned, there's a lot of people who back in the day, how many people we know that played sports, and they come from the hood or come from a area or background, and you like, man, that dude was one of the best dudes I've ever seen in my life. This dude is like, he was amazing. Like, he's one of the coldest, legends. Every team, every school, every person got legends. And so what happens is, when you start to see your people you look up to be like, well, man, he was all that good. He didn't go to college. Man, he was dope. He ain't go nowhere. Like, his coaches didn't say, hey, this guy is. That's why I respect Ted Ginn Senior. Like, when he comes over and his players, he was making sure not just his son, he was making sure everybody was getting a look. Nowadays, we don't got that same thing. People think it's like, as a school administrator, your job is to invest and to make sure that your kids have an opportunity to go to college. Not win no games. You're supposed to be sending people to the next level. If you don't feel like you have a mandate for that, then you shouldn't be in public school. You shouldn't be teaching the kids, because here's the thing. Your goal is to send them off, educate them, and then they come back and they can help you do the same for the next generation. And you not investing in that you might stop 10 people's blessings because you never gave this dude a shot. So I think people got to invest, and you got to make sure and have a burden to say, yo, I'm gonna make sure you get somewhere, because it's imperative. It's not a privilege. It's imperative. We need that.
That's another thing, like, we always talk about on here. It's like, yo, it was so much that was took definitely out of the public school, right? One of the biggest mistakes was, sports is still there, but they took trades out of the schools, right? So and this is just my thing, everybody that's in high school ain't gonna go to college. But just because you don't go to college, that don't mean you're a failure. But my thing is, you by the time you're in ninth grade, you can't tell me that a 15-year-old kid, if you say, hey, I'm going to give you this trade, and when you graduate, you can go into welding, and at 18, you'll be able to make $18 an hour. You're not going to tell me that's not now. What you've done now is you're giving that kid a purpose, because now he got something to look forward to. It ain't college, but you telling me if I just graduate and I finish and I take this course, I can make $18 an hour out of high school. To me, once you took the trades, you took the purpose away. And what happened once you take a kid's purpose? They can go find one. Now they in the streets. Now they doing this, that, and the third. Now they out here trying to hustle, trying to make money, robbing people. To me, school systems are failing the kids. Like, we should know about credit when we're in high school. We should know how to manage our credit when we're out of high school. You already in debt at that time.
It's I look at it like this. I actually literally go back to schools. Like, if you look at my documentary, The American Dream, I go back and I see schools in Akron, and you'll see me talking to some of the kids. And basically what I'm telling them is, I do that because I need them to understand. Like, I dealt with this very tough. Like, me being a person who had a mom, a dad, and is college educated. When I got laid off from work before I decided to go to broadcasting school, the reason I took it so hard was because for me, I am the representation of a person who had all of the right things happen for them, right? Your mom and dad been married forever. You graduated with 2 bachelor's degrees. You just got done with media school. Like, you don't have any felonies. Like, you've never been in trouble. You don't have any kids. You don't, all these things. And I looked at myself and I said, bro, this is crazy. I got all this and I'm sitting on the couch. I wasn't feeling sorry for myself. I was feeling the pressure of being like, nah, I can't do that. Like, I have to make it, because there's people out there that have way more strikes against me or them. They don't have a mom or dad. They don't got nobody in the support system. Maybe they did do something dumb young when they was young and dumb, and now that's hanging on them as far as a record. So if they look at me and say, well, look, bro, I might as well be in the streets, because guess what? Listen, you can't help the Jay-Z said it. You can't help the poor if you wanted them. So you know what I'm saying? So you get rich, you give back. That's a win-win. Like, they looking at you like, all right, well, give me another option or route besides dribbling that basketball, besides being a pastor in a church, and besides being an artist of some sort of singing and dancing or entertaining people. You give me an example of somebody who was just a regular person that made it and said, wow, look, that's an alternative. I can do this. I can probably do that. I ain't got a 40-inch vertical. I don't even run no 4.2, but I can sit behind a microphone and talk. So that's why I was just so passionate, and I just had the desire to be like, no, I'm going to make it. I don't care how much what it takes. Like, I'm just going to do it. And with, God's just his blessings, like, I've been able to keep my mind on straight and to give me the energy to keep fighting, because it's a long haul. I mean, people see the show, but people don't know, like, they hired me to basically come in and answer phones. They're like, yeah, answer these phones real quick. And I'm like, for me at the time, I'm like, there's no disrespect to nobody on air, but you don't know as much as I do. How you know more than me? And I got more degrees. I didn't been to trade school. I didn't learn how to radio and television. And I done played baseball, basketball, and football at a higher level than any of you have ever played. So tell me, how are you more qualified? And sometimes it don't matter about that. It's all about, can you still persevere and continue on, and also use your mentality of being a survivor and a hustler, because I feel like that is innate in Black people. You can't be here for 400 years and live like we lived and not be survivors and not be hustlers and not be entrepreneurs. That's in you. You just got to wake it up. And so that's our advantage, because we done seen crazy stuff happen.
Man, you know what?
We can do a job.
I'm glad you said that, because with how we are naturally and the generation we live in now, where we got access to all kinds of information, you can go on Facebook, IG, whatnot, and you see success of this, or what may appear to be that, right? Then you got all the streaming platforms and whatnot. And so as a kid growing up today, I want that, right? It's no longer as prestigious just to earn a degree. When I can make money on YouTube, I can make money by looking good and just sponsoring stuff on IG, when I can start a Snapchat, I can start a TikTok,
All
I
that.
can start OnlyFans, right? So let me know your thoughts about how do we sort of direct that energy, because again, naturally we're always going to go for what we think is going to put us in the best position. Like just living the status quo, white picket fence, nice house, nice dog, that's not exciting enough for us anymore. So tell me, like, as far as the energy that we carry from birth, even though we might come from lower income areas, how do we direct that energy and focus to be, truly successful for the long term, but also about community?
I think it's a very fine line, because, and I talk to people, and I said it's kind of in the documentary too. The reason why rappers and entertainers are so successful in certain fields, right? Rappers today, people always say, "Oh man, this is garbage. Y'all mumbling. Y'all ain't really saying nothing, no beats, whatever." The difference between people like that who are in the game, in the industry, doing entertainment, and they are winning, is because it's out of desperation. They don't have no plan B. Like they eliminate their plan B from Jump Street. What do you mean by that? Well, anytime you put tattoos on your face, that means you know good and well what that is. I'm going to be typecasted. I'm going to be a target. And I know I ain't going to be able to get no regular 9 to 5 with crazy stuff on my face. So there's no option for them to fail. There's none. They going at it with everything they got, because it's either that or the street. They understand that. And sometimes people who have more opportunities, or come from a better background, we might say, well, I could do a lot of things to your own detriment. I've worked in lots of jobs. I feel like I'm educated enough that I was in financial advising. I've done sales. I've been in management. I've been in operations. I've been in entertainment. I've done all of those. And if one of them says, "Hey, we don't want you back anymore," I'm like, cool, I can go do something else. But the problem with that is sometimes you lean on that and you're not giving everything you got. You think you are, but you're not really out there on a limb. You're not really going for it, and just saying, "I'm out here, I'm about to get it how I live. And this is what I'm going to do. And let me chase this opportunity with everything I got." So when you do get it right, and I think our perseverance comes from the fact that, we ain't never, we have this thing. We don't worship people. Like there's a level of, like, with other cultures, where there's a level of admiration that they show for everybody. For African Americans, we like, "Oh no, listen, I can go get that." It's very many people that are like that, don't put themselves in a lane that says, "I can go get it. I understand it. Like, you good, but I can do what you do," right? And so when you look at it, how do you say, once one of us makes it, or once we use that inner strength to go further and do more, how do we make sure it's about community? You have to not forget that feeling and emotion you had when people doubted you, because that feeling and emotion is what catapulted you to the point where you successful. Always remember that feeling, and then transfer it to somebody else and say, "Do you remember when you didn't have no, like, body to really say, 'Hey, let me give you some game, young dude'? You remember you didn't have nobody that said, 'Hey, this is how you do what you do. Hey, let me show you how I can create streams of income on the radio. Let me show you how I came up with my business model. Let me show you how to get one day on the radio and get paid pennies on the dollar, but I can translate that, and I can capitalize that, and I can spin that into making streams of income other places.'" A lot of times, a guy like me, or people in our situation, they don't want to break bread with nobody, because you got the
No,
roadmap.
no, Yep.
They ain't gonna
Nah.
tell you where to go get it. They're not gonna tell you where to get the grants to start your business
And
or
that's
what you
one of the
need.
biggest things in our community, man, as far as helping each other get ahead. It's like I'm looking at you as my competition versus as my teammate, right? It's
Right,
like, can you imagine two people being on the same team trying to compete against each other? That
man.
that's not gonna work out too well for them. But I got a quick question. You were talking about um people basically being on their last lifeline. They ain't have no other way out. They didn't have no options. Growing up, two-parent household, dad who was coach, who was about it, going to college. Do you think, and I kind of feel like I suffer from this too. You think you felt comfortable, like where you didn't have to like go super hard to make it because there was no other way out, where you felt like you did have a way out because you had that cushion there? Did you feel like you were comfortable?
Um, there's certain. I'll tell you this. There are certain points in your time, in your life that I'm a true believer in this. Like for me, the Bible always talks about, and God always talks about, like He gives everybody talents, and He gave you those talents free and clear. So he gave it to you. He's not gonna take it back. The only way He'll take your talent is if you don't use it. And there's times in my life where I've had the talent and ability to do certain things. And I just, okay, it's not, it ain't that. I mean, I could go do a lot of different things, but you don't get no extra credit points for saying you can do a whole lot of things, but not necessarily be successful in any one. Like that don't get to get it done. So after it came a point in time, I think what it hit me, and to a certain extent, when we talk about the people who don't have no plan B, you're supposed to model your energy and your grind after them. That's like and there's some bad people that are very successful. There's some people that are just, crap human beings for lack of a better term. But you know what? They prospering because guess what? They're doing it better than you. They're doing it more times a week than you. They're going all out for it. So if a person can be bad and be successful, you can be good and successful when you're trying to add and give positive stuff out there. You just had the same grind as they do. And if you can match their grind, your energy level and the stuff you putting out there in the community, it'll trump theirs every single time. No pun on words there. It'll
I like that.
It'll come back to you tenfold because people will reach out to you. People will say, "Hey, man, put me on. How you know this?" And I'm eager always to reach back and help the young dudes. Man, I put you on my podcast. I done started a series where I just put regular people on, and I'll interview you. You know what I'm saying? Because it's not a thing. We got to take back the messaging. We the people that decide. We trendsetters.
I love
We
that. I
people
love
that
that, bro.
we got to take that back. So instead of me putting a guy that may be in the media that's a beat reporter, no disrespect or whatever, there's a time and place for that. But I'm gonna show you that I can go do something else, and we can just talk about you and me and relationships, and it'll do the same amount of numbers as them. We don't need the validation of saying you got to be in the media. You don't need that validation. All we need to do is say the people that's in the position say, nah, this is what's hot over here, and y'all catch up sooner or later. And so that's what I'm on.
Woo. All right, man. Listen, I wanna jump into another avenue because Alex and myself had this conversation. So G Bush, man, we got college athletes, right? Let's just take basketball and football, right? They out there, definitely football on Saturdays, they putting their life on the lines. You know what I'm saying? They listen, the whole month of March, you got Zion, you got RJ Barrett, you got the Trey Youngs, and these guys can't even go get paid like for signing an autograph. They get in trouble for getting tattoos. We remember the debacle with Terrell Pryor at Ohio State, man. What's your opinion on college athletes not being able to collect a check or getting paid?
Well, my thought process as I disconnect my headphones because I just didn't charge them boys up, but that's the downfall. Beat by Dre. Come on, beat. Come on, Dre, man. Give me some batteries in these. But um, here's what it boils down to. Once again, for African Americans, it boils down to access. And access is something that is used systematically to keep you where you're supposed to be at in people's minds. And when I break it down, you just have to just look at the correlation between how many people that are 18, 19-year-old African Americans that are earning people millions upon millions of dollars, and they can't profit from it because it's amateurism. Now, the problem I get and I have in terms of the fiscal arguments with people in this country is that we all love capitalism. We love capitalism, free market, the invisible hand. Everybody wants to talk about the capitalistic structure and why that makes America great. Now, the problem is you can't choose and pick and choose what part of capitalism you like. So my thought process is if you're going to tell a story about a guy like Steve Jobs or guys that are in Silicon Valley or tech guys who at the age of 16, 17, 18 have crazy ideas, can go into the main street, can go into the marketplace and create innovations that move society forward, and they could be compensated for it, right? But you telling African Americans and people that are blessed, just like a mental aspect, just like the ability to come up and create with things and think of processes, you meaning to tell me you gonna stop their athletic ability and from being monetized because of an arbitrary rule? I always get
Well, let's be clear. Their athletic ability is being monetized. They're just not taking part in the monetization.
yes. There we go. Back to we just don't want to give you access to the bag. So here's what we're gonna do. If you play basketball, we're gonna make it where you got to make some of our buddies some money for a year. 19, we're gonna sign a rule that say you're not ready to come to the league. So what you do, go play for Duke or Carolina, make those guys some money. Then you get a chance to make yourself some money. But I always ask, people throw these random things out like, well, they're not ready. It's going to end up, they don't know how to manage your money, the maturity. My question is, we don't never got no problem with 16-year-old European tennis players making millions. We ain't got no problem with the European basketball players being over there being professionals at 14. What about the soccer players all around the world who, if you're good, you're on a professional team at 16? We have no problems with any of that. And you have to ask yourself why. A majority of African Americans, a majority of them dominate basketball, dominate football, the two most popular sports in this country. And so there are guardrails and gatekeepers put in place to make sure we're going to get our money first. If you if you get an injury while you're playing here 4 years, who cares? If you you use up all your game, before you can even make to the league, nah, it's just no. At least you got that degree.
Man, here's what's so funny about that too, and there's a lot to talk about with that, because wasn't it crazy seeing Justin Fields and Trey Lance doing commercials the day after they got drafted? Like, those sponsors could not wait to endorse them, and they probably wanted to endorse them the moment they stepped into college, right? It's not the sponsors, it's Title IX, it's the colleges, it's these laws that need to change. But meanwhile, you got coaches making $5 to $10 million a year to coach these kids, and you can take 10% of their salary literally and pay the entire team every season, and their lifestyle wouldn't change that much. But here's my thing, and you said something that made me think about this, and that's the fact that if those college players did get paid, it would do three things. Number one, it would teach them how to manage money early on in their life, right? You get drafted, like I think Trevor Lawrence how much do you get guaranteed? 30 million for being the first overall pick, right? And if you're in that first round, you're literally guaranteed millions of dollars. These dudes ain't never managed that type of money in their whole life, and you just expect them to not go nuts, right? Especially most of them didn't come from a stable home. The second thing it would do, and I just thought about this, is could you imagine what that would do to the Black community as far as prospering? Because the first thing they gonna do is send money back home. So could you imagine mom not having to struggle, dad not having to struggle, sister, brother not having to struggle? Like, they're literally banking on them to go pro. But if they were able to monetize their college careers the way they should be, they could be set up already. And by the time they walk into the league, family's good, they good, and it's not this big pressure to get paid. But the third thing is it gives the power of the money back into the hands of the athletes, right? It's giving them the power back. And honestly, I think unfortunately it's going to happen in college basketball, which I think is slated to happen in 2023, right?
Yeah, the California lawsuit that came out and they voted on pretty much said that they're going to let teams in California capitalize on likenesses as well as go out and receive endorsement from companies in California.
Very, very smart. And I think they aired that on the Shot LeBron show, right? Yeah. So, I mean, and I know that was kind of a long take, but yeah, like, dude, I got a big issue with the fact that these coaches are making what they're making, but the players are not allowed to make. Some of these coaches make more than professional coaches.
These are state institutions. These are tax funded.
As much as we love
colleges.
As much as we love the coaches like that coach at Ohio State, we loved Urban Meyer, but ain't nobody going to see Urban Meyer play.
They're
going to see Justin Fields and Chase Young rush that passer.
Bro, think about this. Ryan Day walked into a $6 million contract from being an offensive coordinator.
And you know what is crazy? He can walk away tomorrow if he gets another bigger deal. He can if Ohio State paying him 6 and Alabama want to pay him 10 because Nick Saban retired, he can leave that contract that he signed for how many years? 10 years. Take that contract, go right over it and get a pay raise and walk out of his contract. However, why is the onus on 18-year-old children or young adults that if they sign to go to a school, if they want to transfer to another Division I school, not only can the NCAA say, you lose a year of eligibility, boom. Second thing automatically happens. The coach that you don't want to play for anymore has an opportunity to veto the schools that you want to go to. If you're playing in the SEC and you leave Florida and you say, well, I want to play for Georgia, he's going to be like, no, you're not going to transfer to any team that we play within 3 to 5 years on this schedule. Now, how is the onus on a player to honor a contract, to honor a signature of where he wants to play?
Paid, and he's
not getting paid. But the coach, on the other hand, can go do whatever he wants.
And let's be clear, he's there on a scholarship. If for some reason he loses that scholarship, because people kill me with this, or where they're getting a free education. Let's be clear. When you're playing at a D1 at a top tier school, you're a 3-star, 4-star recruit coming out of high school. You do not have time to study. You do not have time to earn a degree. And you did not go to college to get a degree. You're going to college to play the sport so that you can become a professional athlete in that particular sport. The other thing is this. The Percocets. Like, so you can go into a lot of these schools and whatnot. And nowadays they have better training facilities and programs and whatnot. But let's be clear. That's because they're making money for that school. They're making money for that team. The players are technically funding the coach's job, right? But guess what? The whole coaching staff, including the head coach, has access to all of that too. So it's not as if you're giving them some special treatment. No, you want them to have these things. You want them to have the best of the best so they can go out and perform the absolute best. So, I mean, these types of yeah, I'm sorry,
and you said something right there, and here's a quick 3 or 4 things that people have a misconception about college scholarships, because to be truthful, there's only 3,000 Division I scholarships given every single year in this country. That's less than 2 or 3%. So most people don't even know what a letter of intent looks like, your scholarship, what is included, and all that good stuff. The first thing to know is that everybody in a coach's family has the ability to go to school for free once they're coaching. That's
Yep.
his intermediate
Yep.
family.
Yep.
Free
Yep.
education.
Absolutely.
And it's just not one, it's all of them. So if you want to say
It's
how
my first
great
time learning that, dog. I did not know that.
Oh yeah, bro. There's certain schools, for instance, Case Western. I think John Carroll is one. If you work at the school, your children can go to school for free, and it's not just that school. It's like a network of schools that they have access to. So, for example, I know a guy who works at Case, and not only can his kids go to Case for free, it's like 500 other schools that they have access to that they can go to school absolutely free.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. And on top of that, if you want to make it even, well, hey, what if your mother never got a GED, right? I'm a scholarship athlete. Can my mother go get a GED? Can she take classes online to get her? Can my brother, even though he's he's not as good an athlete as me, could he go and him get a scholarship based on what I'm giving? No. So here's the problem: you already got coaches that are already getting a disproportionate amount of income at millions of dollars, but you also treat them better as far as the perks go for them educating their families.
Oh, bro, and the perks just don't stop there. I'm talking about private jets, steak dinners, per diem, like all the things that, and that's just their salary. You got retirement, 401ks, IRAs, medical. Like, do the players have basic financial instruments set up for them so that if something were to happen, they would be taken care of? By the way, they're giving all this time to the school, making you all this money. You don't even have it set up so that they're in some way taken care of. When a coach leaves the school, he's
good.
He's fine. Yeah.
So listen, because so I'm gonna hit y'all with this. Let's go here because and I want to get your take on this too, G. It's, to me, it's starting to be this shift, right? And my son plays youth football. So right now I'm already installing in him. Listen, you can go to a HBCU college because now, listen, eventually they're gonna get some act right. Because once these 5-star, 4-star recruits start saying, you know what, I'm gonna go over here to a HBCU where they're gonna appreciate me, where they're gonna make sure they're gonna treat me better than, yes, because you can't tell me that if, and I use this draft and I use this class as an example, Zion, RJ Barrett, all those guys. You can't tell me if one of those guys said, man, you know what, man, I'm about to go over here to a HBCU. Could you imagine the shift it'd take if one of the top recruits? To me, it'll be a trickle down effect, because now, guess what? Now our people is going back to our schools. Now y'all gonna feel that because now you losing top recruits. You can act like you don't feel it, but once those top, and I mean like 4 or 5, once those recruits start saying, no, I'm good, O State, I like what you're doing, but I'm gonna go over here to Atlanta ENT, or I'm gonna go over here to Jackson State. I'm gonna go play for prime time. Prime time sending people to the league. I play corner. He know what he doing. I'm gonna go over there to him. What's gonna happen if that start happening?
Well, I think you've already started to see a little bit of, recruits, especially in basketball, going to HBCUs. Because basketball is a thing where there's so many Division I schools. There's almost 2 times many Division I basketball schools than there is NBA places, or excuse me, college teams. So people have shown the ability to get drafted in the top 10 or drafted high coming from smaller schools in the NBA. If you can play, it'll be evident. There's 5 people in the court. They'll know if you're dominated or not, and you'll get it in. Now, when you look at it, my father graduated from HBCU in the 70s. So, he talks about, just the difference in levels of where HBCUs used to be compared to where they are now. And this goes back to a further, policy thing. you know, HBCUs have been diminished for the most part because of government funding, because of how where they're getting donors from, and what is the government in the educational system in this country doing to make that a legitimate option to I want to say segregated to integrated to a mixed regular run of the mill public state institution. What are you doing to make sure that those institutions stay funded, that you can make upgrades to the curriculum, that your facilities are up to and stand on point? That is a has to be a priority in this country to reach the different people and do different demographics. And for the last 20 years, 20 or 30 years, that hasn't been a thing. It just hasn't,
So let me ask you this then, since you just said that. You mentioned earlier, basically, and I'm paraphrasing, where our energy goes, prosperity flows, right? So do you think in some ways you got the government on one end, but you got the Black community on another end? For the past, I don't know, 5 decades or more, it's been all about going to the Ivy League, going to the private schools, et cetera, et cetera. Do you think that's more on us as far as to emphasize going to an HBCU, kind of like we're starting to see the trend now? Shouldn't we take some responsibility for that?
Oh yeah, I think we should take. I'll take it a step further and say that our responsibility is we've even lacked the drive to instill a attitude or to still instill the expectation that you have to, like, wherever you go, you got to be at college level, or wherever you go, you better get a trade, or wherever you go, you need a vocation. Like nowadays, it just seemed like people is content with the high school thing. Like, hey, I got it. I'm the first kid to graduated from my high school, right? You're done. You just go get a job now. It doesn't seem there is no push from the parents, from the social workers, or even educating people in I guess urban areas of the opportunities outside of their area. I go talk to kids all the time, and one of the greatest things that ever happened my mom told me. My dad went to HBCU, and my mom and dad both said, yes, we went to a HBCU, but more than anything, we got to keep you well-rounded to a point that you know how to interact and you know how to move in every circle. So wherever you're going to be at, we need you to understand that, white people and other cultures that are in the power in this country, they are the decision makers. You need to learn how to navigate and to work and be around those individuals. But I think that right now, we're not even, posing any sort of options. We're not set the expectation that you guys got to do certain things. And for me, it helped me because I was always pushed out of my comfort level. There's a lot of people that don't even leave their city. When you see and can experience, and I always tell people like this, there's a rover on Mars taking pictures and doing stuff remotely, just taking samples of dirt and basically doing unassisted, unmanned stuff on Mars today. That alone should make you feel insignificant if the only thing you worried about is what's going on in your 2-3 block radius. Getting out, doing other things opens your mind, and then you able to soak things in. But if we don't have experiences and all we doing is sitting in our local areas and talking about what's going on in the hood and all that good stuff, that doesn't give you a perspective of what actually is really important out here.
Yeah, man. And just to cap off this conversation, so we see Master P's son committed to an HBCU. You see Shaq's son did the same. How much of an impact do you think it'll make if Bronny James committed to an HBCU?
I think I actually think if he doesn't go straight to the G League, because I know a lot of people is foregoing college period just to go to the G League, which is basically the minor league system, and they can get $200,000 and keep it moving right now. Bronny is poised to do something a little bit different because he don't need your tuition. He don't need your scholarship. He don't need none of that. Like he got all the money in the world that he can print. So for LeBron James and his family, he has an opportunity to really make a dent on something and saying, I'm just gonna stand on some principle. Because if you think my son ain't gonna get drafted or picked, you're crazy. He's already set up. So if he can do that, other people will come along and say, well, dog, let me try that. All it takes is a couple of them. There's always going to be some people that want to go to big schools or whatever. But for the most part, in talking to African-American athletes and growing up with people, elite athletes don't care about none of that stuff like prestige and I wanted to be on this. And no, you know what they care about? Am I going to get a play? What does facilities look like? Can I be on TV? And what are my chances of going to the league? If you can show that person that, they don't care nothing about the pageantry, because the reality of it is, like you said, I came here, especially with basketball, I came here to go to the league. You don't even take 12 hours. After basketball season is over in the fall, most people just stop going to school because the draft is coming up. I ain't about to be here. You're only taking prerequisite classes anyway. It ain't like you in a major or nothing. So for most people, that's a no-brainer. If I can get everything I can get over here at the HBCU that I can get over here, well, that's an opportunity and an option, especially if I can go follow behind some people that I admire.
Yeah, man. And I think once we start seeing it in football, because you said, and I wanted to touch on this earlier, your dad brought baseball to the hood.
Mm-hmm.
We don't see many young black men playing baseball. Most of the time you see them and they got any color to them. It's either Dominican, Puerto Rican, something like that. So how do you think, because we talked about this, about, basically we've got basketball and football, but I mean, you can make a ton of money in golf. You can make a ton of money in tennis. You can make a ton of money playing baseball. You can make a ton of money playing other sports, going to the Olympics, right? How do we get our young men and women to obviously value education, but to also value playing other sports except the prototypical football, basketball?
First of all, when people talk about systematic racism, I think people don't take in consideration. They think that when I say systematic racism, we talking about lynchings and people getting, hunted down by the KKK, or that's what they think of when you think systematic racism. But systematic racism also describes what goes on in baseball. And it's very passive aggressive. Is very, we all know about microaggressions as African Americans, where they don't overtly tell you like, yeah, I don't think of you highly because of your skin color. They just make certain comments that infers like
they have conversations that they don't have with the folks that don't look like you. They make sure that it's kind of like esoteric, right? You know what I'm saying?
It's different. It's just like
body language, everything, man. Facial expressions,
all of that. And so when you look at it, another part of systematic racism is making it very difficult, or the barrier of entry higher than one group of people. Case in point, there's a lot of, white people or other different, like you said, Dominican and those individuals, Latinos, those people gravitate towards baseball because baseball is a sport where it's like, I can get my money off over here. I can compete over here because I don't got to really run that fast. I don't really got to be able to jump. I don't have to have some crazy athletic ability to play. And so in baseball, they move the barrier to entry so high for African Americans that it's not feasible. If you're a single mother, how are you planning on taking your kid to traveling baseball squads? You can't be traveling all over the country. You take a look at how much it costs to play, football or basketball. You could buy a pair of gym shoes and you could play. There might be $200 or whatever. But all you need is that, and somebody else usually got a basketball. When you talk about baseball, you got to have gloves. You got to have batting gloves. You got to have a bat. You got to have cleats. You got to, be able to
Mitt.
do those things. And to travel with your kid to do that is higher in other sports. People may say, well, G. Bush, well, AAU is dominated by African Americans. Why is there no a barrier for that? Why they can find ways, but here's the part. African Americans, and we talked about the people that are in the community, the coaches, the ministers, the different people. Those are 9 times out of 10 your AAU coaches, right? And so that African American leader of that AAU team is taking it upon himself to make sure so and so over here can come to practice because his mom is working late. So and so over here, he might not have enough food on the road because we about to go through these AAU tournaments. So we gotta make sure he can eat too. All of these things are things that African Americans usually are doing in AAU. In baseball, that's not the case. And so when you look at, if you want to put your son in something, if you want to get him out the streets, if you just want him to be active, it is much easier to let him play football or to let him play basketball rather than it is to seek. How do you even sign up for traveling? Like, where is that? Ain't no sign up sheet for that. Like, who do you go talk to? You don't know the coach. You don't know nothing. You just out there like, this is crazy. Who did I talk to about my 12-year-old son who wants to play baseball? You don't, because it's sequestered over here. You ain't supposed to know.
Bro, you made a great point because I was watching I Am Athlete and they had Bubba Wallace on there. And the question was, how do you even get into NASCAR? Right? It's very expensive, extremely expensive. But like the average kid isn't thinking about, they might like racing, but how do you even get in? Like, where do you go practice? Where do you go buy your first car? And the same thing with golf. Golf is very expensive to play. Just to have a golf instructor, man, can be hundreds of dollars an hour. Same thing with tennis. I was listening to talk about that. If you want to send your kid to tennis, you're talking about for a decent, like a decent coach that's going to help you get to the pro, thousands of dollars a month. And that's talking about when you're a kid.
Yes. And
right?
I know that firsthand. When I wouldn't play basketball, or I wasn't good enough yet at that point, and I got cut when I was in younger, in the 6th grade, and I wasn't playing football yet. The second sport I played was tennis. I took tennis lessons. Like, I had a tennis. Shout out to Poncho if you're watching, by the way. I don't know if he's gonna watch, but shout out to him. He was my tennis instructor when I was in 5th, 6th grade, 7th grade, and we went to a private course or whatever, and we was paying him. My aunt and my mom went in on it together, the rackets and all of this different things. I was huge into tennis. Love Pete Sampras and Agassi and Jim Courier, Stefan Edberg, like Ivan Lendl. Like, I was all the way deep in it. Chang, I was all the way in it. I used to go back in the backyard and practice my forehand and backhand in the backyard. So, but here's to say this. How do you even go about finding that person? How do you even go about saying, hey, I got a guy that I think he's going to be good at tennis? Who do you go find? There is the access to entry is not something. It goes back to like, who's putting you up on game, who's letting you know where to do these things. And they're not going to let you do that because the mentality is, and we've heard it, you guys have that. You've already have basketball. You already have basketball and football. What? I mean, you don't need this too. Like, you want that too? Leave something to us. At least leave something. And that's the mentality. Like, I was told, like, bro, you already start varsity basketball and football. Why do you want to play baseball? It's like, because I want to, and I'm good, and I'm better than y'all. Like, and, it's just one of those things where they want something. And it's human nature to be exclusive. We're going to just make sure we're going to keep this over here. But, it's going to take people like our stars or entrepreneurs, those guys, to just say, I'm going to make sure baseball jumps in the African-American community. I'm going to make sure there's clinics. I'm going to make sure there's the fields. I'm going to make sure there's instructions. I'm going to make sure that.
Willie,
And if
that's how
we
you
will
give
do it.
back. Now that right there is how you give back.
That's it. That's how you give back. Like that's how you make something out of nothing. Don't wait for the city to say, all right, we're gonna revitalize this baseball diamond. Don't wait, you know, to set up leagues and to get people interested and to do clinics and then bring professional baseball players down to talk to you. That's why I can salute Francisco Lindor, because he wasn't holding his baseball camps in some little, you know, suburb. He was going right downtown City Fields and talking to people holding baseball camps for free. So you need those things to happen if you want baseball to thrive, and you can't wait on the establishment to do it, because frankly it's not in their best interest.
Man, before you get started, Willie, I just want to shout out to Francisco Lindor because he just got a bag. My
Super
man
bag.
got a bag.
It's a
Doing
super
his thing.
thing. Listen, shout out, you know, it just goes to show you how lucrative baseball can be, you know, if you do it at the highest level.
Alex, I'm glad you didn't call him Frankie. But anyway, let's jump into this last one, man. It's mental health awareness month. And by you being in the media, you're close to a lot of the athletes. You're close to the locker room. Fans, we see the product on Sunday. We see those guys going out there laying it on the line. We cheering for them. But what we don't see is their life off the field. You know, they have a lot to deal with, you know, after taking it to me, and you played, so you probably can explain this better. It's a switch you have to turn on to go on that field to even survive out there. And once you get off that field, you have to turn that switch off. But before you even fully have it turned off, you got a camera in your face, you got a microphone in your face. It could have been a tough loss, tough game, and that can drain your mental. Now you have to go home. Now when you go home, you got to be a father, you got to be a husband. At the same time, come Monday, depending on whether you won or lost, you got to put that switch right back on to go to the film room, to go to meetings, to get ready for the next week. So explain to the audience, you know, what fans don't see as far as how draining it can be mentally to an athlete once they leave the field.
It can be I'll say this. Being an athlete is so difficult because you're a person without a village. You don't fit in to your community anymore, because the second you get that amount of money, you either unfortunately become a target, or your family becomes a target, or there's a level of scrutiny that comes with law enforcement. There's a level of everything is heightened. You know, when you get that much money, think about it. For the most part, one of the things that my teacher always told us was, back in the day when we would go over what professions would do, and I would say, well, how much money does it make? And they would tell me, that's rude. You're not supposed to ask how much something pays. And I said, well, why would I sign up for that job and I don't even know what the pay structure is? Like, what if I don't want to do that job based on the fact that I can't feed myself? And at a young age of 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years old, I realized that people are very, you know, I'm going to make you, keep you in the dark about certain things, right? So you don't know how much your teacher is making. You don't know how much every your coworkers or your boss. All of that is confidential. But for football players, professional athletes, they know exactly how much money you got. They know exactly when you got it. They know how much is guaranteed of it. And they also know exactly what your endorsement levels are. And so now when they look at you, they don't see hypothetically Garrett Bush. They see Garrett Bush 5 years, 125 million guaranteed. And my job is to get some of that 125 million, because you got it. We know you got it. You know, so there's a level of pressure that comes with that. You don't want to be labeled a person who it doesn't give back. You don't want to be a person that, you know, it isn't in tune with their hood, or you left us behind. So you have that guilt. You keep it with you because you feel like, okay, well, I don't belong in this segment because they're not accepting me for me, the person that grew up with them. I'm different. But you don't fit in the other world either. They see 5 years, 120 million, and people say, why you got that money. How they get that money for playing the game. It's a game, and they pay all that money to you to pay for that.
Bro,
They'll cheer for you right now,
bro.
but let you say something, and it's gonna come right back to.
It's gonna come right back, man. And it's crazy, especially for black athletes, because okay, first off, we got to shout out Cleveland because we had the draft here last
Yes,
week.
sir.
You know what I'm saying? So, but I was looking at these young dudes walk across. That was a long stage, by the way. That stage was freaking long. That
It was a catwalk.
That hallway that they had to walk down to
Fashion
grab their
show.
cap. Yeah, it was definitely a fashion show. The most financially secure dude there was the commissioner. Think about that. Not the players, the commissioner. Like his job is Gucci. His job is guaranteed, and he don't have to play. He don't have to step on the field after. Well, I should say first. The first financially secure is the owners. Then it's the commissioner who makes sure he gets paid. Think about this though. Can they really even enjoy it? Because we know, coming from the black community, when you get that contract, and we ain't even talking about the second contract, we're talking about just getting into the league. You know, you got to take care of mom, dad, brother, sister, auntie, grandma. It's like, if you grew up, for the most part, typical white suburban household, and you just happen to go to the NFL, your family isn't expecting you to take care of them. They're not looking at you draft night thinking about, man, I can't wait till my son buy me this big house, buy me this car, et cetera, et cetera. They're just happy that you made it. Hey, son, go live your life. Don't forget the principles that we taught you. Eat your vegetables, wash behind your ears, things like that. And really, they're like, okay, I'm glad he made it, so he's not a burden upon us. Right? So
to even piggyback with that,
go ahead.
Go back and look. When somebody get drafted, take a look at the difference between the environment when an African American gets drafted and a white guy
don't
gets
do that,
drafted.
G. Don't do that.
Do it. Go in.
First of all, look at the surroundings. Look at the house. You like, did they give you a check early? Like, you winning right now. Look at the demeanor at which, Caucasians, they got a couple people there, mom, dad.
Bro, hold on, wait.
Chill.
Just look at the attire. That should tell you all you need to know. Willie texted me. He said, bro, man, these suits is cold. But when you looked at Trevor Lawrence suit, when you looked at all the other one, they had the most basic, simple. Our suits had to be swagged out, bro.
The jewelry is popping already.
Jewelry,
I'm like, wow.
Hairline fresh. Trust me, bro. They done spent thousands of dollars just for that night
already.
The receiver from Alabama had a grill in.
Yeah. I saw Jalen Waddle. I watched. His outfit was a hot mess. He looked like he done spent like 10, 12,000 already on that advance from his agent. He already got that advance. He like, yo, I'm gonna shine when I get up here. It's different. I'll also ask you and tell you this too. Out of all of the people that got hit for in terms of something like improper stuff, improper infractions, improper benefits, tattoos, you went to a car lot, they let you drive it around, boosters giving you a little bit of money. I dare anybody, I challenge them to tell me one person, let me see it, that happened to be white and that happened to. Good luck. The reason is it shows you the difference in economics, the difference in structure, and the difference in the need and necessity to take certain items because you need it for your family, or whatever the case may be. And you said something brilliant. These guys, they get their son get drafted. They got a mom and dad. Their mom and dad ain't stopping what they doing. They going to work tomorrow.
I was about to say, Dad got to go to work tomorrow. You got to go clock in at 5. All right, son, you got drafted. I'm going to bed.
I'm gonna catch you later, bro. These people have infrastructure. These cats, they ain't pressed about no money. Like, we got guys stealing laptops. Cam Newton got in trouble for taking a laptop, right? Now, other people don't have that problem because they can go and say, hey, son, you need something? Call your dad. I got you. You ain't got to go taking nothing. I got a laptop. We'll buy you a laptop tomorrow. You ain't got to go, taking clothes. Don't worry about using a car illegally. I'll get you the car. Make sure you got the insurance, and you ain't got to worry about getting pulled over saying who the car lot and the booster didn't let you have a car.
It's deeper than that though. It's deeper because they got a whole community behind them, right? So they've got where just because of their skin color, it gives them access. It don't even have to be a relative. It can just be we're in a community. Okay, so is your kid? Okay, cool. He's in. Right. So they've got access to resources that we don't. Bro, I'm gonna tell you what's crazy. During quarantine last year, kids had to, well, pretty much the start of this past school year, 2020, kids going to school. It shocked me the amount of kids in the inner city that didn't have access to internet. I was very unaware, and I lightweight feel ashamed about it simply because since internet came out, growing up in the suburbs, I've always had access to it. So it's never been where I don't have access to internet. I may be in a city somewhere or something and my bars are low, but just think about that. How many of them are growing up without access to internet? How many of them are growing up without access to, if I need to get tutors or tutorship, or I need to sit down with a college counselor or go take a tour of a school. Like, sports doesn't come first in their community. Sports is, okay, you made it, cool. Our mom and dad will be at your first few games. If you go to the playoffs or whatever, we'll be there to support you. But that doesn't come first. They're still emphasizing education, right? At the end of the day. And so here's my thing going forward, because I love talking about this stuff because it shows us what the problem is, but it also allows us the opportunity to implement solutions. Going forward, what should we be telling our young college athletes to focus on, right? Okay, so you might make it to the league. There's a 99.999% chance you won't, right? That's a whole different conversation. All the stud athletes that, for whatever reason, they didn't go pro, but they never emphasized education. So they could be a mechanic right now. They could be working as a server. They could be at a call center, whatever, right? For some reason, in our community, the emphasis is media entertainment. So whether it's being an athlete, whether it's being a rapper, and we don't just have these conversations. This is real. What should we be emphasizing? What should that focus be where we should be telling, look, whether you go to the league or not, this is what you should be focused on. What should that conversation be like?
The focus should be on capitalizing and learning to take advantage of what you have. So you can say, hey, son, or, you're mentoring somebody. You say, you've done a great job of maximizing and taking advantage of your athletic God-given ability. That has gotten you to college. Also, that has given you a very large platform in terms of how many people are aware of you, how many people know you, whether that's Twitter followers, whether that's Facebook friends, whether that's all of these different things. The second you're supposed to be coming into school, you're supposed to be thinking of things about how you can grow a base of people that can either A, give you access, B, give you opportunity, or C, give you connections or entry thoughts of, hey, I can't do it, but go talk to this person. So the second you come into the game, you're supposed to be thinking, all right, I'm a college recruit. I went to Old State. I started 3 years. If I'm going to be out here starting, I can amass almost 1 million followers on Twitter. Out of those 1 million followers on Twitter, there's all kind of different people, from venture capitalists to people who just know that work in corporate America, people who have access to individuals that want to start up different things. You're supposed to be leveraging that and already transitioning into being like, I want to engage these people. I want to talk about things that are outside of football. And further, more than anything, you want to get plugged in. You want to be able to reach out to people and do those things. And so not just think about 4 years from now. Any idea, any entrepreneur will say the most important thing in the world is what? Is
Relationship.
knowing where to go get people who support you, right? Your supporters, you don't need 10 million of them. All you need is about 1,000. You might only need 500 if it's the right people. Your job is to start figuring out how I identify those people who do want to help you. And you'll find out doors will open all over different places you never thought you would have had, because you're engaging with them and you showing people, I'm more than football. I'm more than this other stuff. And when football's over, you won't, it won't be a shock. You just be like, this is a transition in which I've already been working on for 4 years since I got there.
Man, first off, man, thank you so
Fire.
much. Yeah,
Fire.
absolutely, man. This was fun, man. Thank you so much for joining us. But before we close out, man, give us a message. What's your final words, a message to the people before we get up out of here, man?
You know, I think as people and whoever sees this, just know that it's not about, you know, who people validate or whatever. I think everybody has to do their small part. I think everybody has to do and give back in a way that they can give back and actually impact the success of other people. I think, you know, Dame Dash says crazy stuff all the time, but he actually says some brilliant stuff too. Dame Dash said, you know, when I was at Rockefeller and when I was at different places, I had a mentality that was different. If I can make each one of these people that's in my circle a millionaire, right? Even if I go broke, that person goes broke, you still got 9 other people that can give them $100,000 and they'll be still a millionaire. So you know, if you set yourself up and you align yourself and always be willing to, you know, wrap your arms around somebody and create a system in your community where it ain't crabs in a barrel. It's my brother right there fell down. He was a million. Here you go. I gave 100. You gave 100. He gave 100. Now he ain't got to be on the block. He ain't got to be going around trying to think about scheming and scamming. We put him right back on. And if we put him back on correctly, he can give that 100,000 back to us with interest, right? As an investment. But if you the only one with the bag, you can't do it. I need everybody. We need more than one person to be successful. So we insulated from taking them type hits where they won't let us get access. They don't want to do this. Let's go ahead and make it to a point where you ain't no cancel. You can't cancel us, because guess what? We always going to be here to do? Pay it forward. And so that could be in your own way. Like I said before, mine is just trying to give people, young entrepreneurs, young people who want to get a media, how to get into it. What do you need for your equipment? What connections? Hey, do you know somebody at the radio station? Sure. Here's an email. Here's this and that. That's my small way. Everybody else has to find their small way. And I think we can move forward as a culture.
Garrett Bush.
Bars.
Garrett Bush. The Barbershop meets the Black Culture Podcast. Willie, you got anything, bro?
Listen, man, you know, I'm not one to dib and dab after a man just gave a good message. So, you know, I'm the Willie Ashford.
My name is Price. And this is the Black Culture Podcast. Peace.
Peace.